Hi, I'm Drew Jones of Drew's Guitar Shop in Seattle, Washington, and I wanted to talk to you about this Franciscan classical model A460 that I just got done setting up. So this is a student guitar. It's a Japanese-built classical student-grade instrument from probably the late 70s or early 80s. There are a ton of these floating around of various qualities. This one I think happens to have some pretty nice bracing in it, and by that I mean that they're really light braces, which is what you want to see in a classical guitar. In a lot of student-grade classical instruments, you tend to see instruments that are really, really heavily braced, and there's a number of reasons behind that, not the least of which is that it is cheaper to produce instruments with really heavy braces, which kind of shut down the tone with instruments that don't pull a lot of tension like classical guitars. So that's one of the reasons that I decided to put the work into this guy, because it sounded like it'd probably be a pretty good instrument. This is a store stock guitar, and by store stock I mean this is an instrument that came in on a trade or was something that I found, and I'm fixing this up to sell in the store. This is a student guitar, and so I don't tend to make a lot of money on these, and I get a lot of questions as to why I bother with these. There's kind of a philosophy behind it. The philosophy is that I think that most student guitars are really terrible, and I think that a lot of them have some major playability problems and major just build quality issues that make them not ideal instruments for people to learn on. And the issue with that is that if you want somebody to pick up a musical instrument, so this is a message primarily directed at parents, I completely understand not wanting to go out and break the bank buying an instrument, but I will also say that cheap guitars are sometimes just unplayable. And what I mean by that is that, you know, they look like guitars, they have all the right parts, but they just don't function, they don't play. And sometimes it's really major stuff. So, like, you know, if it's a high fret issue, you'll play here, but you won't get that note. You'll get this note or this note down here because the frets are unlevel. Sometimes you'll play a fret and it'll buzz, and it's because the fretwork is just awful on them. You have high spots, low spots, dead spots. And there's the issue with frets in particular is just that bringing something in to get frets level, crown, and polished is around like $160, and that's fairly common as far as the price goes. And so you might be buying an instrument for $50 thinking that you're getting a great deal, but if it's got bad frets, it just may not play, may not be worth fixing. There are other things too, like the hardware, nuts, saddles being made out of really, really cheap materials that don't allow the string to move very freely, which causes tuning problems. So like you're tuning and tuning and tuning, and the tuner just doesn't go anywhere, and all of a sudden you hear a pop or a slip, or maybe not even that, and the instrument finally moves. That kind of stuff is really, really frustrating, and like in a show scenario, like if you're trying to play a show with a guitar like that, it's just not gonna fly. And for somebody who's just starting out and not really familiar with how a guitar should work, giving somebody an instrument that's going to act that way is really it's really setting somebody up for failure. Another thing too is just that the plastic nut and saddle on an acoustic guitar, in particular the saddle, that's where most of your tone comes from, is this little guy down here. Most of the energy from the strings are going through that saddle into the bridge and into the top. And so that saddle, if it's made out of a really bad material like a really soft plastic, can be just a terrible filter and really shut down the tone of an instrument. It's much, much better to have a harder material like bone. So when I get in these instruments like this guy here, I do a level crown and polish on the frets. So that means the frets are leveled, re-crowned, so they play perfectly and look and sound awesome. And the nut is replaced with a custom carved bone nut. Saddle is replaced with a bone saddle, so that these instruments play the best that they possibly can, are comfortable, and also sound the best that they can. I also go in and give these instruments as low a setup as they can take. Well, not as they can take, but is recommendable, so that students can have something that's gonna be really comfortable for them to play. And I always leave the door open if anybody needs higher action on these instruments to bring them in, and I can do that no charge. I want to make the instrument play for the player that buys it. This is a pretty great sounding guitar. I'll go ahead and I'll strum a few notes on here for you so you can see what it sounds like. But this would be a really, really good guitar for somebody to start learning classical on. I'm not a super great player either, but you can kind of get a sense of what this instrument sounds like. So anyway, that's my pitch on this Franciscan Classical A460. If you want to play this one or other guitars that I have for sale, I've got a reverb page that's linked in the description. I sell things on Craigslist, and you can stop by anytime. Just give me a call and set up an appointment, and you can come in here and play as many guitars as I have for sale. Thank you for watching.